The grand crystal hall glittered, but amidst the rich guests and famous faces, Ava Collins moved quietly, balancing a tray of sparkling glasses. Her heart raced with nerves, not excitement. She was exhausted from working double shifts, but she needed the money more than ever. Her sick mother was waiting at home, counting on her, and the thought of her mother's weak smile made her push forward. The wealthy elite whispered and laughed at her plain dress and simple shoes. She tried to remain invisible, but fate had other plans. As she carried a tray of champagne across the ballroom, she accidentally bumped into a tall, sharply dressed man. The moment their eyes met, Ava froze. This was no ordinary man. This was Logan Hayes, the city's youngest and most arrogant millionaire, known for his sharp tongue and cold heart. Tonight, he had chosen her as his target. A mischievous smirk played across his face as he leaned closer, his voice loud enough to carry. "If you dance this tango with me, I'll make you my wife." The room went silent. Gasps echoed around the hall as Ava's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She heard laughter, thinking this was just some cruel joke, a display of power and mockery. Yet, something inside her stirred a mixture of defiance and courage. She had endured too much to let anyone humiliate her. Not here, not now. Without thinking, she set down the tray carefully, wiped her sweaty palms on her apron, and, to everyone's shock, took a deliberate step toward Logan. He raised a single eyebrow, clearly surprised by her boldness. As the band switched to the slow, seductive rhythm of a tango, she felt a strange thrill. This dance could change everything. Her heart pounded as she stepped onto the polished dance floor, her eyes locked on his. Logan seemed momentarily disarmed by her courage, his usual smirk faltering into something unreadable. As they began to move together, Ava realized she wasn't a trained dancer, but she had rhythm and, more importantly, heart. She let her movements flow naturally, confident in herself even as every eye in the hall watched. Logan, who was used to controlling every situation, found himself unprepared for her. He was unprepared for the way she led him with subtle twists and turns, her confidence matching his own, but without the arrogance. The crowd murmured, whispers spreading like wildfire. Who is she? She isn't scared of him. She isn't impressed by his wealth. She dares to challenge him. As the music swelled, Logan's mind raced, trying to regain control. But every step Ava took was measured, graceful, and fearless. For the first time in his life, he felt a mixture of anger, intrigue, and admiration. This poor waitress was not like the other women he had known. She wasn't after his money. She wasn't bending to his ego. She was something completely different. As the final notes of the tango echoed across the hall, Ava stepped back, holding her head high. She faced Logan directly and asked simply, yet boldly, "I danced. Where is your promise?" The room erupted into stunned gasps. No one expected such audacity. Logan, usually quick with witty insults, found himself speechless. A rare and unfamiliar sensation washed over him. As Ava turned to leave the dance floor, whispers followed her. Some praised her bravery, some warned her of the dangerous path she had chosen. Back at her station, her hands trembled with adrenaline. Had she made a mistake, deep down, she felt a spark of pride. For the first time, she had stood up, not just for herself, but for her dignity. Logan, left alone in the center of the ballroom, felt a strange emptiness. He had been bested in a game he didn't even know he was playing. The arrogant millionaire who could command empires now faced something more powerful than money. Ava Collins' courage and spirit. As the night went on, he couldn't take his eyes off her. He watched the way she moved, the way she laughed quietly with other servers, the way she treated everyone with kindness despite their whispers. He knew something he had never admitted to anyone before. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Not as a conquest, not as a challenge, but as a person who had shaken his world. His mind kept returning to that dance, to her eyes, to the fearless way she had dared to defy him. From across the hall, Ava caught glimpses of his gaze, fleeting but unmistakable. She tried to ignore it but felt a curious mix of fear and excitement. She had noticed that same intensity, that same challenge reflected back at her. That night, as she finally finished her shift and stepped out into the cool night air, she thought about Logan Hayes. The arrogant millionaire had tried to mock her, yet somehow left her feeling more alive than she had in months. Little did she know, this single dance would change the course of her life forever. Logan Hayes was a man used to getting everything he wanted, and for the first time, someone had escaped his control, meeting him not with fear or flattery, but with courage. That small spark would grow into something unstoppable, something neither of them could ignore. As Ava walked home, her heart still racing, she felt both fear and exhilaration. She knew their paths were now entwined in ways neither could have predicted. The city around her buzzed, the night alive, the world waiting for the next move, for the next dance, for the story that was just beginning to unfold. In that moment, the universe seemed to pause, holding its breath as two very different worlds collided in a single, unforgettable, life-changing encounter. This whirlwind of courage, pride, and unexpected connection was just getting started, and neither Ava nor Logan could escape. The night at the Crystal Hall was over. But for Logan Hayes, it might as well have been happening on a loop in his mind. Board meetings, phone calls, endless business deals. They all just faded into a blur. The only thing in focus was Ava Collins, the waitress, the woman who had the nerve to challenge him in front of the entire city's elite. He tried to push her out of his thoughts, but it was useless. He kept seeing her face, the way she stood tall, completely unintimidated, the way her eyes met his, without a flicker of fear. He'd met hundreds of women, beautiful, powerful, influential women, but none of them had ever made him feel like this. It was a dizzying mix of intrigue, a grudging admiration, and something else. Something he refused to put a name to. While Logan was wrestling with these unwelcome feelings, Ava was back in her normal life, or what used to be her normal life. She carried plates, smiled at customers, and tried to forget, but she couldn't erase the image of Logan's smirk, or the shock in his eyes when she took his hand. She couldn't forget the whispers that followed them as they danced. Her life had changed. She knew it. That one night was going to follow her everywhere. It was already starting. A clip of their dance had gone viral. The waitress who silenced the millionaire, that's what they were calling her. People would recognize her at the cafe, whispering and pointing. She tried to focus on work, but whenever she thought of Logan, her heart would start to race. It scared her. She'd never been drawn to someone like him before, arrogant, untouchable, from a world so different from her own. And yet, she had sensed something else in him, a flicker of vulnerability hiding beneath all that pride. Logan couldn't stay away. He told himself he just needed coffee, a ridiculous excuse even to his own ears. He walked into the little cafe where Ava worked, and his eyes found her instantly. It was like a magnetic pull. Ava felt his gaze on her, and a shiver of nerves ran down her spine, mixed with a familiar spark of defiance. Had he come to mock her again, or was there another reason? As he approached the counter, she straightened her shoulders, determined not to let him see how rattled she was. He flashed a smile, the kind usually reserved for magazine covers and high society guff. He asked for a coffee, but his eyes never left hers. Every word felt like a test, every glance a question. Refusing to be intimidated, Ava answered politely, her voice quiet but strong. She noticed something different about him today. The usual arrogance was still there, but it was softer, tempered by a genuine curiosity she hadn't seen before. He came back the next day, and the day after that. Each visit got a little longer. He wasn't just ordering coffee anymore. He started asking questions about her life, her dreams, her mother. He was showing a side of himself that she was certain no one else ever saw. Ava remained cautious, reminding herself not to be naive. She knew how charming men like him could be, and how quickly they could leave a trail of heartbreak. But she couldn't deny the connection that was growing between them, something neither of them seemed to be able to control. Logan, for his part, found himself noticing the little things about her. The way she held back a small laugh when she was genuinely amused. The careful way she chose her words. The quiet kindness she showed to everyone around her. He felt a pull, stronger than anything he'd ever known. It wasn't just attraction, it was a desire to know her, to understand her, to be near her. And Ava, despite her best efforts to keep her guard up, found herself looking forward to his visits. The city, meanwhile, was buzzing. The millionaire and the waitress was the hottest piece of gossip, fueling rumors that made their quiet cafe encounters feel both complicated and incredibly thrilling. One afternoon, Logan was sitting in his usual corner, just watching her work. She moved with such grace and purpose, completely unaware of the profound effect she was having on him. In that moment, he knew he had to take a risk. He walked up to her and asked if she would step outside with him, just for a short walk. Ava hesitated. She knew the dangers of getting any closer to him, but a voice in her heart, a tiny, hopeful whisper, urged her to say yes. They walked along the quiet street behind the cafe as the sky above them filled with stars. The air was cool and still. Logan stopped and turned to her. All the games, all the pretense, fell away. In a quiet, honest voice, he admitted it. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said. "You've unsettled me in a way no one ever has." Ava was stunned into silence for a moment, then she found her voice. "Why?" she asked, her tone cautious. Logan struggled, the words not coming easily to him. "Because you're real," he finally said. "You're fearless. You're nothing like anyone I've ever met." A strange warmth spread through Ava's chest. She kept her voice steady. "And you," she replied softly, "are more complicated than anyone I imagined." In that moment, under the stars, an unspoken understanding passed between them. It was fragile, but it was undeniably there. When they returned to the cafe, the tension lingered, a magnetic pull that neither of them could resist. Every time their eyes met across the crowded room, sparks flew. It was a silent conversation that made both of their hearts race, but they weren't in a bubble. Outside forces were already at work. Vanessa Hale, Logan's ex-fiancée, had seen the viral clip, furious and humiliated. She was already plotting her revenge, spreading vicious rumors that Ava was a gold digger, using Logan for his money and fame. Ava, completely unaware of this new threat, was simply trying to navigate the storm of her own emotions, the fear of getting hurt, and the undeniable thrill of being truly seen by someone. As Logan left the cafe that evening, he paused at the door. He looked back at Ava, his gaze intense, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that his life had shifted on its axis. And Ava, watching him go, felt a whirlwind of hope, fear, and excitement. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew, deep in her soul, that this was only the beginning. The next word, the next glance, the next dance of emotions would shape a story of two worlds colliding. A story of tension, romance, and a magnetic attraction that On his part, Logan became more protective, more determined, not out of pride, but because he genuinely cared. Seeing me whispered about, doubted, and judged by the very people he usually ignored, awakened a fierce desire to shield me from harm. It started with small gestures. He'd walk me to work, make sure I was treated respectfully by staff and customers, and subtly let anyone who tried to undermine me know that I was under his protection. But Logan knew gestures alone weren't enough. I wasn't a girl who relied on anyone's protection. I had survived on my own for years. He needed to prove, not command, that his intentions were genuine. So, he started talking to me. Not about wealth, status, or social games, but about my life, my dreams, my struggles. And he listened. He truly listened, with a patience and attention that few people had ever given me. Though I was still wary, I felt a strange comfort in those moments. I began to sense that behind his imposing presence was a man capable of empathy, kindness, and maybe even love. But love, in a world where so much was stacked against us, could never come easily, and soon, the stakes grew higher. Vanessa, refusing to be ignored, decided to intervene directly. She showed up at the cafe one busy afternoon, dressed in designer elegance, her smile sharp, her words carefully crafted to wound. She approached me with a fake sweetness, complimenting the cafe before slyly asking questions meant to unsettle me. I sensed the trap, but I kept my composure. Logan, watching from his corner table, felt a mixture of anger and helplessness. His usual dominance was useless against Vanessa's subtle psychological games. As her words lingered, the tension in the cafe grew thick. Customers noticed the confrontation. Whispers circulated. Despite my nerves, I held my ground, meeting Vanessa's gaze with unwavering eyes. Finally, after what felt like hours, she left, smirking, clearly planning her next move. She left Logan and me in a charged silence that spoke louder than any words. That night, as I was closing the cafe, exhausted, Logan appeared outside. He was waiting for me. I knew he hadn't come to lecture or scold me, but simply to be there. His presence was a comforting anchor in the storm Vanessa had stirred. As we walked together through the quiet streets, Logan finally let down some of his defenses. He admitted, not just to me, but to himself, that he'd never felt this way about anyone, that he couldn't imagine a life without me. Feeling the weight of his words, my heart raced. I was torn between caution and the undeniable pull I felt toward him. Our connection was real, but it was fragile. We talked about lighter things, laughed at small jokes, and shared small gestures of intimacy. But neither of us could ignore the shadow of Vanessa's interference or the gossip that continued to swirl around us. As days turned into weeks, our bond deepened. Our interactions grew more natural, more intimate, yet they were constantly challenged by outside forces. They witnessed a rare glimpse of vulnerability and loyalty in a man they had only seen as untouchable. I felt a wave of relief and pride. I realized that Logan and I were now bound not just by attraction, but by a growing understanding and respect. A recognition that our love could survive even in the face of manipulation, gossip, and social divides. As the night ended and the city lights glimmered around us, we walked side by side, our hearts racing, our minds filled with both uncertainty and hope. Their connection felt real, intense, but could it survive in a world determined to tear it apart? The jealous rivals, the social pressures, the endless rumors. It felt like an impossible battle. Logan, however, was not a man to back down from a challenge. He saw the storm gathering around Ava and made it his mission to be her calm in the center of it. He wanted to prove his intentions were real, not just a fleeting moment of gallantry. He started showing up at the cafe where she worked, sometimes unannounced, just to catch a glimpse of her smile, to hear her laugh as she navigated the busy tables. Every time their eyes met across the room, it was a silent promise, a shared secret of growing affection and loyalty. Ava appreciated his quiet support, but she couldn't shake her caution. She'd learned the hard way that hearts like hers were fragile, and opening up felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. The more she felt herself falling for Logan, the more terrified she became. The tension between them was electric, a mix of pure longing and raw fear. It was a dance neither could lead, yet neither could resist. Every glance, every brief conversation was loaded with the weight of their different worlds, a constant reminder of the obstacles that lay ahead. It wasn't long before Vanessa Hale, still bitter from her defeat at the gala, decided to escalate her attacks. This time, her target wasn't Ava's reputation, but Logan's trust. She began planting seeds of doubt in his mind, whispering lies about Ava's motives. She painted a picture of a manipulative social climber who had used the charity event to trap him. Logan was fiercely protective and deeply in love. But even the strongest heart can be shaken by the insidious poison of doubt, especially when it comes from someone who knows you so well. Ava sensed the shift immediately. A subtle distance, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. She had danced with him that night for herself, to prove that her own courage and dignity were worth more than anyone's wealth. Hearing her truth, the clouds of doubt in Logan's mind parted. It was a powerful reminder of why he'd fallen for her in the first place. Ava was real. She was fearless. She was unshakable. In that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that no lie, no scheme, no amount of societal pressure could ever diminish the bond they shared. The night air was cool, but their hearts burned with an unspoken intensity. Logan's determination to protect Ava grew stronger, not from a sense of ownership, but from a place of genuine love. He wanted to be her shield, to ensure she never again felt small or unsafe. And Ava, in turn, began to relax in his presence. She saw that his protection wasn't a cage, but a comfort. Together, they found their own rhythm, a silent language of emotions, trust, and growing intimacy that was theirs alone. But the outside world wasn't ready to let them be. Vanessa, relentless and furious, doubled down on her campaign. She spread vicious rumors and organized lavish parties, constantly positioning herself as Logan's rightful partner, hoping to spark jealousy and insecurity in Ava. At one glamorous rooftop party, Vanessa finally confronted Ava directly. With a cruel smile, she mocked Ava's humble background, her clothes, her very presence in their world. But Ava, with a quiet strength that was becoming her signature, refused to be broken. She met every insult with calm confidence, her poise unwavering. Logan, watching from nearby, felt a surge of overwhelming admiration and love. The crowd was stunned into silence, the whispers replaced by a palpable sense of awe. Ava felt a wave of relief, so profound it almost buckled her knees. Logan's commitment was real. As the party wound down and the city lights twinkled below, they stood together, hand in hand. The challenges were far from over, but they had faced the storm and come out stronger. In the quiet moments beneath the stars, Logan finally confessed what was in his heart. Not as a joke, not as a challenge, but with complete sincerity. He told her he had never felt this way about anyone, that she had completely changed his view on life and love. Ava, moved by the raw honesty in his voice, admitted that despite all her fears, she was beginning to believe in them. She was beginning to believe in a love that could survive anything. Standing there on that rooftop, they made an unspoken promise. They would face whatever came next. Together, they would trust their hearts and let their love grow, even in a world that tried to tear it apart. Their story had started with a single dance, a spark of courage. The days after their rooftop dance were a whirlwind. The city was buzzing about us, the millionaire and the brave waitress. Whispers followed us everywhere, from cafes to offices, each rumor adding pressure to a relationship that was still so new, built on courage and trust. But strangely, the more the world tried to pull us apart, the stronger our connection grew. It wasn't about money or power. It was about honesty, resilience, and an unspoken understanding that went deeper than words. Logan had always been a man in control, using his influence and charm to navigate his world. But with me, he was different. He told me he was powerless against my spirit, that my independence and integrity were qualities he'd never seen before, and they drew him to me in a way he couldn't explain. And me, I was cautious, of course, but I felt a magnetic pull toward him, a mix of fascination, admiration, and a longing I'd long since buried. I knew I could trust him, but I also knew that love in his world came with challenges, especially from jealous rivals. The most relentless was Vanessa Hale. She became obsessed with tearing us apart, spreading lies, staging manipulative events, and trying every trick to humiliate me. But Logan was my rock. He confronted her with a calm authority that left no room for doubt. He made it clear that his loyalty was with me, and his protection was absolute. Seeing his faith in me gave me a new kind of strength. I stood taller, and my own courage began to shine brighter than ever before. One evening, as twilight painted the city in shades of gold and purple, Logan invited me back to the rooftop, where it all began. He had transformed it. There were soft lights, floating candles, and roses everywhere. It wasn't about the grandeur. It was the message behind it that our love was worth celebrating and protecting. When I arrived, I was speechless. The thoughtfulness in every detail showed me how much he truly cared. As we stood there, the soft notes of a tango began to play. Just like that first night that changed everything. Logan looked into my eyes, his usual confidence replaced by a raw tenderness. He confessed that from the very first moment he saw me, he was captivated by my bravery and my spirit. He admitted that I had completely changed his understanding of life, love, and trust. In that moment, every fear and doubt I'd ever had just melted away. I finally realized I had found someone who saw me, respected me, and loved me for exactly who I was. His hand found mine. Our fingers intertwined, and he guided me into a gentle dance. We moved as equals, lost in a silent conversation between our hearts. The world below us, with all its gossip and judgment, simply faded away. There was an electricity in the air, a symbol of the deep connection that had grown between us. Then, just as the moment felt like it couldn't get any more perfect, Logan knelt on one knee. His voice was steady, but I could hear the emotion trembling within it. He asked me to marry him, to walk through life with him, through all its joys and trials. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at him. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every daring choice I had ever made had led me to this single, breathtaking instant. And I knew, with every fiber of my being, that true love could withstand anything. With a voice breaking with happiness, I said yes. My heart felt like it was going to burst with hope and joy. Logan rose and pulled me into an embrace, and as the city sparkled below us, we held each other close. This wasn't just the end of our trials, it was the beginning of our future. In the days that followed, we faced the world together. The gossip didn't disappear overnight, but each challenge only made our bond stronger. We learned patience, understanding, and the power of unwavering trust. We found so much joy in the simple things: laughing over morning coffee, quiet talks under the stars, and the comfort of knowing we always had each other. The city, which once watched with curiosity, now watched with admiration. They saw that our love story wasn't about wealth, it was about courage, honesty, and loyalty. Vanessa's schemes faded into the background, becoming irrelevant noise. We were free, empowered by a love that had reshaped our lives and inspired everyone who witnessed our journey. One quiet night, back on our rooftop, Logan held me close. I could feel his heartbeat, and I knew he had found his soulmate. In resting my head against his chest, I felt a sense of peace and completeness I had never known. Our love had survived every storm and every doubt. It was a testament to courage and the extraordinary power of connection. As the music played softly, we made an unspoken promise to cherish and protect what we had found. Our story, which began with a defiant dance, had blossomed into a love that was timeless and profound. As the stars twinkled above, we shared one last dance, slow, intimate, and full of emotion. It sealed a love story that had conquered fear, jealousy, and social divides. We were two hearts from different worlds, now beating as one, ready for whatever came next, together, forever.